All right, so who thinks the queen runs the hive? Nobody that's been in here. You should know better. The queen does not run the hive. The bees work. It's a democracy. Anybody gets a chance to ever watch any of the videos on YouTube by Dr. Tom Seeley, he will show you real quickly that she's just a baby lady. They run her, they push her to where they want her to lay, they throttle her back, they push her forward to make, spring build up, she builds up because they're pushing her. That little retinue of bees around her, they clean her. I hope you guys know this. They clean her, they feed her, they get rid of her excrement because she does nothing for herself. She's almost as useless as a drone when it comes to anything but making babies. But yeah, the queen does not rule the hive. That's even back in the 18 and 1700s when they come up with that idea. There was also a king of the hive back then too, if you didn't know that. It's interesting. Never knew that until I was reading a book. All right, what causes swarming? The hive gets congested. There's no way for the bees coming in that are foraging to get through the brood chamber and up to the honey supers. If they're bringing in nectar, they can't get in and get to the pollen. So that trips the nurse bees. Hey, we need to do something. Now, A, you either give them space, or B, you make a split. We'll get into all that here shortly. But, drag this out right quick. My crude, non-finished new. This is the way I winter bees. If it's an 8 frame, a 6 frame, a 5 frame, a 3 frame, or a 2 frame, I winter them in excuse me, it looks like 2 boxes, but it's not. It is a simple piece of newspaper cut, and it's 1/4 inch short on all 4 corners of the whole thing. I'll take 4 pounds of sugar and mix it with 1 cup of Ultra Bee pollen substitute, 2.5 inch Shim. I have 1 inch of that blue board you buy at Lowe's to put on it, and then put the lid on top of it so when that moist air comes up, it does not condensate against that 3/8 inch plywood. Drop back down and kill your bees. This does 2 things. First off, it gets rid of the condensation in the hive because the dry sugar will absorb it. And it gives emergency feed for the bees. What I found out, because I found this out through Kent Williams, is the bees most of the time won't touch their own honey. They'll eat the sugar and they'll leave their honey. So when you're out there in March going, I have no honey, I've got to feed them, I've got to feed them. If you do this, you're going to have honey in here for them to expand. It also gives them, people say, oh, you've got to have a super of honey, 2 supers of honey. Okay, let's just do a little bit of thinking. You've got a 3-story house. You're heating the cluster. Heat dissipates out through the insulator beads. Goes into the hive, the 2nd story, 3rd story out the top. If you have them in a single box, all that heat stays here, so they do not have to hard cluster as bad. They do not have to spend all that energy, so you're using less sugar or less honey if you're not using sugar to make it through the winter. This new box versus an identical one sitting next to it without the sugar and stacked with 2 supers on it, this one will be 1 brood cycle ahead of the other because there's more heat staying in the box and it radiates out so that you can have a bigger cluster and fewer bees can cover more larvae. But there's the problem. Early spring, this one's going to be ahead, so in February, well, let's back up. How many of you have seen any swarms now?
Mark?
Oh, yeah,
Mark said he's showing it.
I shook it to a couple of the trees. What I found is they're absconds. They're not true swarms. And so I found the 2 hives that mine absconded out of. So I cleaned the box, melting the wax down, because there's something in that hive that they didn't want to stay in. But thinking about now, you put them to bed. In December, we usually have a nice little warm spell of about 2 days where it gets up into the 60s. Go check your bees. sometimes you'll find that they've already ate that 4 pounds of sugar. Check them in January. In January, we always have a couple of days of 70-degree weather. Check them in January. I put pollen patties on them in January. I keep pollen sub out year round in the winter because it's 50 degrees above. Some of my bees, they're flying at 30-something degrees. They're wearing themselves out, not bringing anything back to the hive. I'm giving them something to do. They'll say, oh, well, you're going to cause brood rearing. That's dictated by the winter solstice. As the days start getting longer, the queen, they'll start pushing her to lay more and lay more. Well, then you get into what we're talking about here. They can make more brood, and in doing so, you'll be ahead of yourself, or they'll get ahead of you, I should say, before you know it. So that's why I'm saying out there every month, looking in your hive on those warm days. I walk the bee yard every day. I don't care if it's 20 degrees. And I'm looking at the entrances. Nothing from the peanut gallery. But it's important because you can see dying hives in the wintertime. If you go down there and there's a bunch of dead bees in the entrance and they're not able to ventilate that hive, say it's been cold for 4 or 5 days, down in the 30s, 20s, you can't fly, those dead bees, your attrition is always happening. Drops, if they can't ventilate the hive, they've got to have oxygen just like we do. That hive can die. Condensation, you can see it running out the front. On a real cold day, you can sit there and see, if you got an upper entrance, you can see steam coming out. But when February gets there, I'm looking and counting. I'm counting frames of brood. In the first part of March, I'm counting frames of brood. Because 1 frame of brood equals 2 frames of bees covering brood. Because each deep frame is basically 7,000 cells. I've only got one that's got that in it. 7,000 cells, 3,500 per side. So you're looking at quite a few bees. Count your frames, open brood versus cap brood, and what little bit of honey you got left. That's one way that I judge hives, because I know, okay, this one's got 3 frames of brood. I go to the next one, I mark 3 frames, 3 bees, 1 H, and an E. That doesn't matter. I've got 3 frames of brood, 1 frame of honey, and 1 empty. Go to the next one, and that's only 1 frame of brood. I know I can come to this one and steal one, bring that hive up to where it should be. Don't mean I'm going to, like Brian was talking about, I'm not going to keep that clean, but if it gets me through winter, she's still surviving. You equal out all your hives early spring, which a lot of you guys don't know. I know you've got 5, right? Kevin's got 2. Any of the mentees got more than 1? Good. Did that first. I thought, wow, you jumped up there quick too. But yeah, you kind of even them out. The old adage of start with 3, I don't believe in that. Because just because you see something going on in this hive doesn't mean it's going to happen in the other 2. But if you get into this hive and then get into that hive, and the next one, and something's wrong with this hive, you just spread it to the others. I've got a lot of respect for Jay, because Jay pushes, if you've got multiple yards, have a complete set of everything for each yard. Because if I've got European foul brood at this yard, working on my high tool, bring it to the next one, you've just took EFB to your next one. I'm just a stickler about that. And I'm rambling. I'm rambling because I've got off target. Because she told me, she said, what are we doing? You're messing with my video.
You have screen bottom boards or solid?
No, I have 1 screen bottom board in the whole operation, and that's because I ran out of 1 frame solid. And it's an emergency. It's the very first one I started with.
Yeah.
It'll go bye-bye here quick. All right.
Mike,
Yes.
when you put that sugar on there, how do you prepare it? You just put the whole bag on there and open it up?
I open the bag. I've got about a 2-gallon bucket. I put it in the bucket, put my 1 cup of pollen substitute, And I just have a paint stirrer, and I just stir it up. If I'm working the yard there at the house and doing all of them, I have a 5-gallon bucket and a 2.5-inch drill.
They just pour it on the newspaper.
Or half-inch drill, yeah, just pour it around, kind of level it off, that way they'll eat from the outside in. And then I'm lazy, I just put strips down on the outside, and put more sugar down if they eat it, because you'll see the paper coming out the entrance.
So when you go back to check to see if there's sugar in there, like on your warm day, you just lift the lid and the sugar will be there, or
It'll be
the
there, it'll
sugar?
be gone.
Okay,
That's
so
why-
they'll just eat.
Eat dry sugar, condensation is the liquid they need to make it edible. Some of your queen breeders, that's all they feed is dry sugar in the summer. Because if they've got their mating yard next to a bunch of big hives, we use it for drone hives, you don't want to be putting sugar water in a little bitty, they use a little bitty mating nets. They're little 4 frames, frames are about this big. You put liquid in that, and the big hives will throttle them out in no time. So they just use dry sugar. The other important thing of that was feeding dry sugar though, you gotta have a water source. Because I'm gonna try to polystyrene hives this winter, and we're gonna see, because supposedly the insulation value, you're not gonna have all that condensation that forms in the hive. It keeps the humidity up, but it doesn't actually form in the water droplets.
Since the sugar also takes care of that moisture in the hive,
Yep.
is it indicated?
Yeah, sometimes you'll look at it and it'll look, wow, you ain't even touched it.
They'll be tunnelling in.
And you tap it and all of a sudden it just crumbles because they've ate everything underneath it.
Do they chew up your newspaper so that you have to replace it?
Oh yeah, it comes up, it'll come out the front.
You'll replace that every time when you go
Yeah.
back to put food in.
Like I said, some of them won't even touch the sugar. You'll be scraping sugar off and it'll just come off as one big block. Carry a 5-gallon bucket in the spring, dump my sugar in it, mix it up and feed it right back to them.
I just use a piece of legal size printer paper, that's what I use. I don't have to trim or anything.
You use an inner
Legal size printer paper.
Yeah, that doesn't cover all of it though.
No, it doesn't cover it all, I leave them a little margin.
Extra margin.
Extra margin, like 8 inches of margin.
Like you have the sugar and the 3, whatever that is, the shim.
2.5 inch.
And then do you have the blue board, do you use an inner cover? Or,
No, ma'am.
so use that, the blue board instead of,
Blue board is just to keep the hot air rising off the bees from hitting that cold inner cover and the condensation forming and dropping back down on them.
So no inner cover, you just set your top cover right down on the.
Yep, it's
1
cut,
inch
it's
blue
cut
board.
to the exact same size
Yeah.
as the mix. I'm crazy, I have, like I said, I have 8, 6, I'm getting ready to build some 7s. Just, I try something new every year. Any of the ones that have been to the house, yeah, you see all kinds of crazy little stuff out there in the yard. Some of it works, some of it gets tore down and reappropriated.
Repurposed.
Yep,
What's the blue board? Is that just a 1/4 inch styrofoam?
it's the 1 inch polystyrene type insulation, it's an R value, I think 5.
You see it in blue or you see it in pink.
Yeah,
It's not regular styrofoam, it's the polystyrene, which
If you
is
go to Lowe's, it's
different.
blue, if you go to Home Depot, it's
It's
pink.
Supposedly.
Corning is pink and somebody else's is blue.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you the name on the blue, I just cut it and got it.
Yeah.
And it does cut good with a table saw.
Yep.
Just wear some eye protection. But back to what we started talking about in swarm protection. Prevent swarming. There's a bunch of debate on that. A lot of people say, oh, that's the natural thing that bees do. They do 3 things real well. They sting. Let's go 5, 4. They die. And they store honey and they reproduce. Because back to Tom Seeley, he does all his studies in the Arnott Forest. Per square mile, there's 2.8 feral colonies. 100 colonies, he said, this is roughly the numbers, 100 colonies swarm. They find new homes. 80% of those swarms do not make it. So you've only got 20% of the swarms that make it, and 20% of the original colonies will die. So you still have the 100 colonies. And then he's been studying the Arnott Forest for, what, almost 50 years? I think it started in 78. And that's what happens. It's the same number of beehives, even through varroa coming in, same number of beehives in the trees. It's just swarming is a natural tendency. Some bees have a tendency to swarm more than others. I'll get to that here toward the end. But when you first get into your hives in spring and you first get to do your first inspection, you start seeing drone combs showing up in the corners. You might see, oh, just a little bit here, a little bit there, or if you're like me, you're encouraging drone production, because I'm wanting queens. I'll have a frame that's nothing but drone combs. Once they start putting that in your corners, it's time to act. Because they're going, we need to do something. It's warming up, days are getting longer, there's forage out there, there's pollen coming in, there's nectar coming in, we're getting congested, we need to do something. That's your time to act. Easiest way to do that, give them space. Don't fall for the checkerboarding in early. Wait till you've got constant temperatures, nighttime temperatures above 50. Because if you try checkerboarding them in and it gets down into the 30s or 40s, you're going to kill a lot of brood. Because they will leave part of the brood to cover the other brood. And whichever brood they see is the most viable, most important to them, i.e. probably the furthest along before it's capped, is what they're going to cluster on. Then they're going to have to spend all that time pulling all that brood out, getting rid of it, and starting all over. I'm really far behind on my notes. Cell cuts. You'll see them along the bottom of your frames. You'll see little cells. They're what's the word I'm looking for? They're round. Can't think of the word I'm looking for, but they're round. You can tell that they're not going to have anything in them because they're just bulbulous. That's the word I'm looking for. It's like a light bulb. And then once you see them start pulling those out, you'll need to look in them every time. I mash mine. That way I know next time I come in there, they're still thinking about it. Once you get a larva in there, it's too late. You will not get that tendency out of it. That's when you've got to do one of two things. You need to either do a massive split or what I call a shook swarm. You'll find the queen, put her in a cage because you don't want to lose her. Falls on the ground, and you step on her, she can die. And you're going to be calling me. Trying to save you a little money. Take the frames that have open brood on it, because that's going to have your nurse bees. If there's a cat brood, you might have just a few nurse bees. I put a sheet or a ramp, I've actually got a ramp built up. It goes from the bottom of the stand down, and I'll take that frame and I'll shake every bee off of that open brood. Put that in the box. In the box that I'm doing it into. If I'm doing a 8 frame, I'll take at least 3 frames of open brood, shake it in front, and let them walk into the hive. Even though I'm putting that brood, I just shook them off of it in that hive, and I'll hang that queen cage in between with that queen in it. That way they'll walk up there, because bees love going uphill for some reason. They'll walk up here, first few will go in, and the queen's here. Everybody will start throwing that rear end up in the air and fanning. Everybody will walk in, they think they swarm. That'll take that swarm tendency out of that hive. Leave the original one in its place. This one will flourish because it has the queen. That one has all the emerging brood. They have no need for taking care of brood, so you don't really need any nurse bees over there. They'll all become foragers. They'll go out and start bringing in the nectar pollen. Thing you'll notice before that virgin queen starts laying, you'll notice that they will start taking any nectar, anything they have in the center, and they'll start clearing this out. And in a couple of days before she even gets mated, you might start even seeing pollen coming in. Because they're expecting her to come back and mate it. The other thing is doing a walk-away split. Throw the dice, take a chance. I don't like that. You just take the boxes, you even out the brood. If you find the queen, great, you know which box is in. even out the brood, okay, I've got a frame of open brood, frame of open brood. Make sure that both of them have a frame of eggs. That way they have something to make a queen out of. Make the split, even it out, honey, put them on a different bottom board, set them over there, come back in 8 to 10 days. Whichever one has queen cells, you know the other one has a queen. If you're lucky, because they say 20% of all hives have 2 queens. You might have queens or both. I haven't seen it this year, but I've seen it every year prior. It's quite amazing. You'll have a hive and you're thinking, man, this queen is a gangbuster. And, whoop, good Lord, there's 2. Let's see. Walkway split. The cells are, if you find that your cells are capped when you go in your hive, too late. They swarm. Unless it's been raining for 2 or 3 days prior and your queen will still be in there. If you just happen to get out there that day right after the rain. I've done that. Been stupid, let them go 14 days and go out there and go over their queen cells, keep looking and find the queen. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, backing up to the split, so you took your existing queen, put her over into this hive, and then you were going to introduce a queen to this one, so you shook the bees off outside, and then you put the introducing queen in there, so they would come back in?
This is the one where you put the queen in the cage is your original queen from hive A.
Okay, so you captured your queen, you caged her,
And you cage her, that's why you hang her in there.
and they think,
And they, when you shake them out, they start walking up there in the first, like I said, find it and go, hey, mama's in here, and they think they swarm. That takes the swarm tendency out of that hive.
and you said that was the hive with open brood?
Yes. Take
And
those
so
out.
the other hive that doesn't have a queen,
Will have the majority of your cat brood.
and so you'll introduce a queen there?
If you want to, if you guys want to learn how to make your own queen.
Or make, but one way or the other, you've got to put a queen in there because they have capped brood.
Yeah, you'll leave at least one frame of open brood with eggs.
Okay, gotcha.
That way you'll know exactly which frame to look for your queen cells on.
Yep.
If that one, if you didn't find her, if that one's the one that she's in. If she's actually still in that one, you'll have plenty of cells over here. Yeah, it's just the rain, prevention, early spring, you know, like I said, I go in and check all the frames for pollen. You can do the checkerboarding, like I said, if your nighttime temperatures are 50 degrees or above, because you're giving lanes for those bees to work. Because once you get them to a certain point, there's nothing really you can do about them. Once they get that big, they're gonna swarm. But if you give them those open channels, Fred Bosco, the guy that taught me how to be a beekeeper, he actually drills holes in all of his supers. And if you go to his yard and watch during the hard nectar flow, all you're seeing going in the bottom is pollen. All his field forces are coming back with nectar going in the supers. That alleviates all of his congestion in the brood chamber. Because, you know, think about it, would you want to be fighting through all the New York City street, fighting down through the street with your minuscule amount of nectar, trying to find a receiver bee amongst all these nurse bees, taking care of all that brood, or just fly right into the top, there's a receiver bee waiting. If you guys don't know what a receiver bee is, that's a bee that's actually waiting for nectar and pollen to come in, and then they'll take it so the forager can go back out and do her job. Bees don't sleep either. Yes, sir.
The rain, how long is the queen's viability? She can't get out within how long?
I've seen them wait 21 days.
Really? And still go out and get it?
I've got an observation hive in my office, and I was there when she came out of the cell, and I was there when they forced her out the door. And it was actually 21 days later, and she's still kicking 2 years later. Preferably, if I know she's going to hatch on the 10th, I come back on the 20th, and I expect to see eggs. Because she's got 10 days, they usually shove her out the door somewhere around day 7. And that's the day that they like to inseminate them, because that's supposedly when she's best to be made. Young queens, tendency is less to swarm. So you have a young queen from this year. I know you've got a young queen. She'll have less tendency to swarm. You've got a younger queen. You've got one. They have less tendency to swarm the next year. Watch out for them in year 2. next year will be great, year after that, they're gonna take off. Select breeds, and I'm gonna give you my list of from least likely to swarm to it's gonna happen and it's gonna happen often. You're looking at the buckfast and the Caucasian, you're kind of running right neck and neck. They just don't really want to swarm. They do, but they're easy to keep away from it. Just give them just a little bit of room, they're happy. The Italians are next. I don't like Italians, but we're not going to discuss that. Cordovans is an offshoot of an Italian. She's got a gold thorax instead of a black. Then you got your Carniolans, which they like to swarm. They're a little happy. Then the Russians. And then what we hope we never have is the Africanized bees. But with the Russians and the Africanized, you're going to have swarm after swarm. You're looking at them and barely get up to size, and they're like, wow, they're good. The next thing you know, they're in the tree. You wasn't even full. Clipping the queen's wings, you're just pulling the inevitable. Because you clip her wings, she can't fly, she'll go out on the landing board. Swarm will go to the tree and come back. She'll go to the tree and come back. First virgin comes out, she's gone. Or they'll kill her and wait on the first virgin. There's a lot of people that do clip wings. Any more questions?
I was just gonna say, we talk a lot about swarm management. And of course, you don't want to lose a good queen by letting her swarm. But the other thing that the new beekeepers may not know is not only are you going to lose a good queen, perhaps, but you just blew your whole honey show for that year too. Because they're not going to have enough time to build up, so you're going to have a non-profit hive for a whole nother year if you don't manage and